Hello, coffee lover. Welcome to another edition of Coffee Truth. I'm your host, Pak Kopi, and it is coffee harvest time here in Bali. We are very excited. We have a great crop of 100% Arabica coffee. But this video isn't anything about that. This video is about giving the idea of resting coffee a rest. Okay, so I have been involved in a home roasting group recently on Facebook for the last month, and it is amazing how many enthusiastic, committed, involved people are now roasting their own coffee at home. They realize that there is absolutely nothing better, and as soon as they do it, they're sold, and everyone is so passionate about roasting their own coffee that there's free sharing of information. It's by far the most active Facebook group I've ever been involved in, and it's really good to see. But I've noticed some things that I believe are misunderstood about coffee. And basically, that's three things. Number one, I believe there's a mistaken belief that bitterness equals strength. And the opposite is actually true. Now let me explain. When coffee is fresh roasted and you make your coffee immediately after roasting, what you notice is it's not bitter. Why? Does that bitterness develop? Does anything develop after the coffee is roasted? And the answer is no. Coffee decomposes after it is roasted. And what happens is there is a layer of tastes that are sour, sweet, mostly sour tastes, that mask the bitterness. The bitter taste is still there, but these sour tastes overpower the bitterness, and the coffee doesn't taste bitter at all. It's not because the bitterness hasn't developed. The bitterness hasn't been unmasked, because when the coffee is so fresh roasted, there are these other elements, and they are loaded with antioxidants. I believe they're a lot healthier when you have it just after roasting than when you wait. And when you wait, what happens is that top layer of taste, those sour tastes, the acidity in that, it leaves the coffee bean. It's gone. And what happens is it unmasks the bitterness underneath. So the longer the coffee sits after roasting, the more bitter it is. Try it. Try roasting after a day, a week, a month, and you will notice that the coffee will become more bitter. Bitter is not developed, but these other tastes that mask, that overpower that bitterness have left and decomposed and are not available anymore. And I believe these contain powerful chemicals, nutrients that are very healthy for us to take in, for our brains and our bodies. Okay, so bitterness does not equal strength. The opposite is true. When it's not bitter, it's stronger with these other elements that are available that are still present. Okay, number two, people tend to focus on specific flavors because we've been trained that way. Barista competitions have a flavor wheel. It's not a feeling wheel to see how this coffee enlivens us and the buzz we get from it, but it's about noticing specific flavors. And like what happens with bitterness, these flavors are impossible for our taste buds to detect when the coffee is too fresh roasted. There's too many elements that are overpowering specific flavors. So the idea of resting in order to taste these flavors is, again, nothing is developing, it's just decomposing. So these higher elements have to leave the coffee bean in order to expose these specific flavors. Number three is, since all the experts seem to agree that the coffee must rest before using it, people blindly believe that that's the case. And then it becomes, how much should it rest? I myself, I was taken in by it as well. In my TEDx talk in 2012, I announced that peak time was 11 hours. Now, I said the coffee must have a time to rest, 11 hours. But I had only tested at the time back to 11 hours because I only had a big commercial roaster that I was roasting on, and I couldn't roast in a small sample roaster, which I can now, and which I have since changed my mind on, and think that coffee should be used immediately after roasting, which is not my own idea, but it's an idea that was developed over 1,000 years ago in the birthplace of coffee, Ethiopia. It's called the Ethiopian coffee ceremony, and they still do it today. It's roast, grind, and brew. Nothing is saved for a later date. Everything is done with no time in between. The beauty of today is we have the technology, the machinery, that we can do that whole process very quickly. Because if you go to Ethiopia, it's going to be several hours to do the whole process. But we can do that in a matter of minutes today with the new technology. So technology has enabled us to do the roast, grind, brew process in our own coffee ceremony in a very convenient, efficient, quick way. So I encourage people, test this theory on your own. Find out, should the coffee rest, and how much rest should it take? And the way to do it is you have to test the coffee side by side. So you have to test 1 day after roasting versus 4 days after roasting, side by side. You can't depend on your ability to distinguish if it's better from day to day, because our consciousness has changed. The place we're in has changed. So the coffee is going to be taste different. Our taste buds have changed. The weather has changed. Things have changed. You cannot rely on notes. You cannot rely on other factors unless you are testing it side by side. Okay, I'm not the only one that thinks that coffee should not rest. What I'm going to do is show you some comments that I have gotten agreeing with my conclusions, and I'm going to end you with those comments and a little of my trumpet playing. Okay, thanks a lot. This has been Coffee Truth. We'll see you again.
Mm-hmm.